Good morning. This is a timely and very important video. According to most forecasts, the United States is facing a very severe shortage in physicians in the next 10 years. It's projected that we're going to be 100,000 physicians short in the next 10 years. And the underlying reason is because the process of becoming a doctor has become too restrictive and too vigorous, so that only about 1 in 10 pre-med students who want to become doctors actually become doctors and make it out from the other end of the process. In this video, I want to address how to study and succeed and ensuring your path to become a doctor becomes a reality. This is a method that I have used myself. And at one point, I thought I have invented such a process that's so unique and proprietary that it's not been done anywhere else until more recently when I started mentoring pre-med students at Cal Poly, that I realized there's more than people out there who are using this exact same method. And surprisingly, we seem to have come up with this method independently, but it's been proven very successful because she's also thriving in the undergrad career and consistently scoring in the top of her class when it comes to exams and preparation. So I want to go over several things. There are approximately 5 stages on how I study. What I never do is I have never spent an all-nighter studying for an exam. I'm a natural early riser, but I never sacrifice sleep. I haven't used an alarm clock in more than 30 years because I don't really need to. I wake up very early on my own. But I make sure that I go to bed on time so I get adequate sleep. So sleep serves as the foundation of my study technique. The same thing is true for Shohei Ohtani, for the Dodgers. He makes sure that he spends at least 10 hours to sleep at night. And if he has an important game, he will put in 2 additional naps during the daytime so that he knows sleep deprivation is not going to play a role in his performance. I do the same thing. So let me break down the 5 steps that I typically approach to studying a material. Let's just say for an 1-hour lecture, the morning before the lecture, I usually wake up early in the morning, usually around 5 o'clock, and I preview the material in the textbook, because usually you have a syllabus and you know what the professor is going to talk about on that lecture. So I make sure that I review everything before the lecture so I know what the professors are going to talk about. So when the material actually is presented for the first time for most of my peers, I have already seen material once. And I have the broader context of where the material fits. So that's the first time through the material. The second time serves a very unique function also, because when the professor goes over the material, he or she really narrows down what the most important material that I need to focus on when it comes to review. This is a very critical step because usually the amount of material that's covered in the course is too vast for you to memorize everything. So being at the lecture plays a very critical role. Being there tells me what's important and what I need to really focus on my attention on. And usually within an hour or 2 after lecture, I review the lecture notes. During the lecture, I take very intentional notes, so I'm actively involved in the learning process. I'm not merely listening to the lecture, but I'm not taking on notes. And then within an hour after lecture ends, I review those notes and organize it. So that would be the 3rd time that I'm seeing the material. And that really helps me kind of congeal the memory and the knowledge that I just acquired. And this is especially important because I'm focusing on the most important material according to the lecture. And the fourth time, and also so this third step takes approximately, for a 1 hour lecture, takes me about an hour to review the material. The fourth step is perhaps one of the most important steps, because the fourth steps allows me to take the information that I just learned, take the knowledge, and then make sure that I store it in a place where I can find it. Because most of the time, the human brain is quite an amazing organ. The material goes into our head. Most of the time it's stored, but when we cannot remember something, it's not because the information is not there. It's simply because we cannot retrieve it. I'm sure this has come across to many of your experience that you try to think of a name or a piece of information, and you spend a tremendous amount of effort trying to think of it, and it just wouldn't come to you. And then suddenly, maybe an hour or two later, it just pops into your head. So that demonstrates the material and the information has always been in your brain, but you're just unable to retrieve it. So the fourth step of this study process, it's critical in that process. It's helping you retrieve the information. So how do you do that? Now you have a solid grasp of the material. The fourth step is to review all your notes and make sure that you file it away in a place where you can find it. For example, if you buy a new pair of running shoes in real life, you're gonna, once you receive it from your front doorstep, you're gonna store it in exactly one place where you're gonna most logically find all your running shoes. So for me, it's gonna be my closet in the master bedroom. So this way, when I need to find my new shoes, I know exactly where to go. And this is exactly what you need to do with your new piece of knowledge that you just learned. So this process is the most important step. For a 1 hour lecture, it takes me about 2 hours during this stage 4 of the process. So I go over the material, re-synthesize the material. So usually this involves creating flashcards, typing the material into an outline form, or simply writing notes with color-coded emphasis on the important information. This helps me really seal the idea, not only in my head, but putting the greater context. So in the future, when I need to retrieve the information, I can easily retrieve the information. Finally, the last step. So the last step is the fifth step. This is perhaps the least important part, but it still plays a critical role. When I look at the material for the fifth time, this is usually the day before an exam. Not necessarily the night before, but the day before. I look at the material again and I quiz myself. By now, I should remember the material already because I have reviewed the material 3 times on the day of the lecture. Once, sometime after in between, to really store the material in the greater context so I know how to retrieve it. And the day before the exam, basically I'm testing myself. It's almost like a mock exam. So I will re-synthesize the material and form it in the form of a question, kind of like a Jeopardy style. What is the Krebs cycle? And then I will draw up the Krebs cycle on a piece of paper. I will try to recreate it. And so this way, when I take the test the following day, I feel like I have seen the question already, and I can simply present the material from my knowledge during the exam very successfully. And with this method, I was able to consistently score top of my class in medical school. And when I took my USMLE Step 1, this is the first step of getting my medical license. This is perhaps one of the hardest exams that anyone has to take in any field. But I scored in the top 2% of all doctors in the United States. So this method certainly served me well, and it seems like it's serving my mentee very well too. And she is a very successful pre-medical student, and I have no doubt in my mind that she is going to be setting curves all the way to medical school and become an amazing doctor. Anyway, I'm hoping that this can help many aspiring doctors to be more successful in the pre-medical study career and also in medical school. Thank you.